There is a new management philosophy that is sweeping the wave. Started from Harvard Business Review and started in about 2012. Okay, sorry. And autism overcome their communication disorders by giving them an artificial voice. That was the product that his company built, his previous company. Ashwin started his career at Capital One as a business analyst, where he was responsible for driving product strategy for a portfolio of 4 million credit cards. He has a master's in operations research from University of Texas at Austin and a bachelor's in technology from IIT Madras. On that note, over to you, Ashwin.
The blue screen of death. So it took some time to get the laptop back up. I think you must be wondering what an ex-entrepreneur is doing at Genpact and leading quality in an analytics business. Right? So in my 10 years of experience, I've actually tried to do business excellence at various different levels. When you have your own startup, you have no choice. You have to be excellent to be able to even survive. So it's been quite a exhilarating ride for me, and I'm enjoying myself at Genpact in this new avatar. I wanted to share a few things of why it's so exciting to be in the analytics business at this point, and how we are bringing in process excellence into that as well. Just a quick sense check. Let me try to understand the audience a bit. So how many of you are from process excellence roles? Those who are not in process excellence, can I get a sense of what you're expecting out of this conversation?
So what I was looking for is typically how you are doing system across different perspective of the organization.
Okay. Okay. I have one example of that at least. So hopefully you'll get something out of that. Yes?
Actually, most of the Six Sigma, Black Belt and all these things, most of the things they teach about demand.
Yes.
DFSS, there's not that much teaching that is going on for DFSS.
Yeah.
And as a process professional, our job is to design process many times.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think you said well. I'll use what you said in just a moment. Anybody else? Okay. So you're exactly right. We over the last 10, 15 years of service delivery in India, what we have seen largely is demand. DFSS is still in the domain of manufacturing. And this is what I want to do in this session, is actually have a conversation with you about how we can bring DFSS into the service design space as well. Before I move forward, one more question for the group. How many of you have actually implemented DFSS projects? None? Okay, fair enough. Then I'll use that in my talk. So let me walk you through why we think about DFSS as a very important methodology at Genpact. Genpact is known for their Six Sigma culture. Being a GE offshoot, they've obviously done a lot to take the Six Sigma culture forward in India. We are always looking at innovation, and DFSS is our next step, especially in the analytics business. Let me explain to you why. I'll give you a few snapshots on the analytics business. That's the buzzword in the industry now. Analytics everywhere, right? Almost every single company is talking about it. So I want to walk you through some current trends on analytics, what we are seeing, and share that with you. And these are publicly available information, so I'm quoting some studies that have been done by McKinsey and all. Then I'll walk you through some of the challenges that companies face when they talk about analytics and what we hear. This is a sort of amalgamation of all that we have heard serving different companies across the globe. Then I'll talk about how you try to set up a process excellence, design the analytics service for them using DFSS principles. And that may give you some pointers on how we actually can implement DFSS in your own work. And at any point of time, please stop me, ask questions, let's make it interactive, let's talk about your scenarios, and I'm happy to brainstorm with you right here on how you could potentially leverage DFSS. And towards the end, I want to have a conversation with all of you on what you could take away from here and how you think DFS can work in your organization. All right? So a few snapshots. Increasingly, it's becoming clear that analytics and data-driven insights are important levers for staying competitive. And there's a study that was done by IBM and McKinsey. I'm just quoting some facts from there. 58% of Fortune 500 companies leverage analytics. They create a competitive advantage with that. If you are a leader in analytics, then you're more likely to be in the top quartile of your business than not. I think it's been proven time and again. Amazon, think about how they completely dominate the business. And that's largely because of the analytical engine that they have built. 49% of those companies that leverage analytics have achieved a lot better customer-centric outcomes. And those who apply advanced analytics clearly have more revenue growth, clearly have more profitable growth. All this coming from studying hundreds of companies. So the key takeaway here is that there is going to be a segregation of folks who use analytics really well and folks who are not able to use that for their own advantage. And this is going to really change the landscape going forward, which is why you hear so much buzz about analytics. Everyone wants to use it to create that competitive advantage. So let's sort of take a snap quiz, right? We've heard so much about analytics. So we think of analytics as having 4 key elements. And that sort of defines the landscape for any company. So can I have some, what do you think are the elements of analytics? Some of them are obvious.
Data visualization.
Data, okay. Data visualization, okay. More?
Predictions.
Predictions, all right.
Insights.
Insights as well, okay. I'm talking about elements. Some of you are talking about outcomes.
One will be a tool.
Measurement.
Tool, okay. Measurement, fair enough.
Mining tool.
Mining tool, okay. Anything else? Feedback, okay. Okay, fair enough. Anything else? Nobody said Hadoop yet.
Correlation.
Correlation, okay. What about the people? How do you do analytics? If machines could do everything, why do we need the analytics organization, right? So we think of it as data is the primary foundation on which you can even start to do any analytics. Then you need technologies. You need to be able to visualize the data, to your point. You need to be able to mine the data, to your point. You need to be able to create insights out of it, right? This is the element. But this alone is not sufficient. You need data scientists and professionals to be able to look at it, contextualize it. You have to be able to say that this data is useless. This data is useful and create that particular differentiation. And finally, we are in a business excellence summit. How can we forget process? You do need a process. Even you can have the best data, best technology, best people, but if you don't have a process, how far will you go? Right? So that's what determines what a successful enterprises are not. Successful enterprises are ones who can put this together and put a successful process. A process that can replicate itself. People could move, technologies will change, data can be manufactured, data can be changed in the ways it comes. Measurement, somebody mentioned. You could change the way you measure. Data changes, you should be able to adapt to that. So this is the story of folks who are able to link analytics outputs to business outputs by making a combination of this work for their organization. Sounds simple enough, but there's still a lot of people who find it difficult to harness analytics. How many of you in client-facing roles interact with clients very often? Would you say they are really effective at using analytics in their business? Some of them? Any of them? To a certain level, right? So the analytics space itself is evolving quite a bit. And we are at what is a revolution in this space. We are trying to get to a place where analytics is going to become industrialized. So it's no longer about having that smart person in your team. It's about how you can create an ecosystem where ideas can come from anywhere and that can impact your business outcome. So that it also calls for culture, that calls for process, and that calls for having the right balance of people who are able to contextualize that particular data to the business that needs to be made, decision that needs to be made, sorry. So a few reasons why enterprises find it difficult. There is low cohesion. How many of you are in organizations where sales and marketing don't talk to each other? You at least heard of some, if you're not in that, right? So there is very disjointed analytics. There is that tendency to hold on to your own turf and basically try and say that nobody else can actually do this.
It
Yeah?
may be because the KPIs are not contradicting with each other.
True, true. But if you really think about it, do you really have analytics KPI? Does anybody get measured to say, yes, you brought insight to the table? It's almost like a pickle, right? If it is there, wonderful. If it is not there, that's fine. It's still edible. So that's why it's not so much a concern around whether it's on KPI or not. It's just the way an organization develops. They specialize in different silos and they remain in those silos. One size fits none, right? We've been hearing a lot about big data. I'm going to share you a very interesting comment I read recently. One of the persons I admire the most in analytics business was asked in an interview, what do you think about big data in your 15 years of experience in working on analytics? And his answer was very insightful. He said, you know what? In my 15 years of working in the analytics industry, I've never come across small data. So it's all about the packaging that's happening right now. There is definitely better ways to handle larger pieces of data, but the largest pieces of data have always existed. It's not like they're never there. We just have better tools these days to be able to analyze. And the tools will keep getting better as well. There is a talent gap. You know exactly who you want to hire when you're in sales. You know who is a good salesperson for your company. You know who is a good process person. But do you know who's a good analyst? Very difficult. It's not an easy question to answer. So that talent gap is also playing a large part in enterprises being able to execute a successful analytics strategy. And the rising cost of analytics. Today it is Hadoop, 2 years later who knows what it is. It keeps changing. You have different ways to measure social media. You didn't have Facebook 10 years ago. You didn't have Twitter 5 years ago. Now it's mainstream. You need to have social media information to be able to do anything for your consumers. So the ROI expectation when you look at analytics, when somebody invests in analytics, and this is based on our experience, if somebody invests $1, they want $3.50 back. Right now, the industry is running at 0.55. So there is clearly a lot of failures out there in analytics, and which is where we are trying to bring the science of process and deliver a solution that is compelling, that works for every single situation. So, being process excellence experts and business excellence experts, Impact looked at that problem, and we want to solve it using the science of process. So we believe that the primary reason many of the enterprises fail at having a successful analytics strategy is because they don't have a robust process. So we are building a process kit that dominates technology, data sciences, and data, puts it together, and gives them a solution that is customized for them. So we are trying to improve the process of embedding analytics into actual business process. And that's where we come in our practice. And that's where we're leveraging a lot of design for Six Sigma. So when you think of design for Six Sigma, what comes to your mind?
DMAT V.
You think of DMAT? DMAT, okay, fair enough. Okay.
New product.
Sorry?
Something new product.
Statistics.
New product, yeah, statistics.
Something to do with statistics.
Okay, okay, fair enough. I'll take that.
Structured execution.
Structured execution, okay.
Customers feedback.
Customers' feedback.
Quality improvement.
Quality improvement as well.
Do right the first time.
Do it right the first time, yeah. So one of the best articulations of DFSS that I've heard is that DFSS exists so that DMAT doesn't. If there is DFSS, there is no DMAT. If a process is already Six Sigma, do you even need to go down the DMAT route? So DMADV is the well-known methodology, and I'm going to present what we did for analytics organizations in the exact same. So for every company that we work with, the first thing we do is we define what is the alignment of analytics for your big picture strategy. Is it that you're trying to do analytics only for sales? Is it for long-term profitability? Is it for cost? What is the big why that you're trying to drive? And that's where the voice of the customer comes in. So DFSS is actually a methodology that doesn't deal so much with data. So you'll be surprised at the amount of statistics that it doesn't have. It's a lot more to do with ideas. It's actually a framework where you want to encourage ideas and you want to pitch those ideas against each other and find out which works and which doesn't. And the only way to qualitatively try to assess that is to ensure that it captures the voice of the customer and meets that objectives that they've been stated. So the voice of customer has to be converted into requirements, which leads to what is typically known as an ECTQ dashboard. So you have a dashboard which says that if the CEO is saying that what I want really is, I want to know that if my product has an issue in China and I'm going to have negative press on it tomorrow, I need to be able to look at social media, make an intervention today so that the news tomorrow is not as negative as it is. So that's the voice of the customer. So what is the CTQ here? The CTQ here is actually that I need information to flow really fast. I need a dashboard that tells me almost in real time what my product is doing at different places. So this is the first step of trying to establish what a company wants to do with its analytics strategy. Then you measure. The measure phase, all of us are aware of how we do measure. Very statistical in DMAT, not at all statistical in DFSS. It's all about once you got the VOC, what does that mean? What prevents you from getting that particular data? So you assess what processes exist at the company, whether they even have the tools and the processes that collect that information. Because if they don't have, you have to design for it. So it's more a question of finding out what is not there and what is failing in the current process. That's what you do in measure. Then you investigate. In the analyze phase, you investigate the cross-functional collaboration. If there is a customer service queue that is getting a lot of calls, does that trigger anything? Does that information go back to say something is happening in China? These kind of interlinkages you have to map out across silos. And this is where we start breaking the silos. Right? And then you design. That's when you get to the design team. So till this point, it's all qualitative. You're just trying to assess what exists, what doesn't exist, what is effective, what is not effective. Once you have that linkages, you convert that into a design to say, this is important, this is not important. And that's where you do the whole prioritization with the customer, work with the stakeholders to say what level of investment they're willing to do. What is it that they want to do for the next generation. And this is where multi-generational plans comes in. And finally, once you have set it up, you verify whether the original VOC, are you getting the information from China as you said you wanted? If not, you failed in the design. Do the design again. So that's the way DFSS works at an analytics operating model. So we have institutionalized this because we work with so many companies on their analytics business. We do the exact same framework. And as you can see, this is a fairly generic framework, but it leads to very different results in each company. It all depends on what is it that the customer is really looking at with their analytics strategy. Any questions so far?
What do you mean by institutionalized framework and an example can you use?
So this is sort of the methodology that we follow when we are trying to set up an analytics shop for someone. this has led to a framework which I'll reveal in just a short time frame, where we have multiple different types of solutions that could work for a customer based on their budget, based on their issues in terms of size of their organization, and in terms of what they're willing to do, willing to invest in.
And we can demonstrate the money savings in rupees.
We can demonstrate the money savings in rupees as well. Yeah. So let me walk you through an example. Consider a global financial services company, right? What functions or departments are central for them? So a financial services company, look at risk, look at marketing, look at operations, and then there'll be a corporate role as well. There's a lot of regulatory pressure in that space. So we started with a client in the risk domain. The risk team approached us and said, you know what, we have a portfolio on which we want to manage the risk. Can you help us with that? We did a lot of analytics for them in portfolio risk management. We set up an MIS, we set up real-time dashboards for them on measuring risk, doing all that. Due diligence for their acquisition. Then we started speaking to them saying, is this all you want to do? Does your risk department talk to any other department? That's when they started talking to us saying, well, we'd like to look at marketing as well. And they do customer segmentation. They want to know if the sales force is effective or not. Then we set up alternate channels for them. We did scheduling, staffing, all those good stuff to get operations in order. While all these departments were working in silos, they had very different analytical needs. But we saw that there were a lot of cross linkages as well. So we replicated the exact same sort of model with us. We set up a federated structure where we have an analytics team which is now 700 people strong that works with all of these departments. But because we are mirroring their structure, we are able to integrate a lot better ourselves. Then there is collections. So on collections, they want to, once they have assessed the risk, once it has really gone bad, they want to get the collections, they want to recover it. They want to figure out whether to use agencies, whether to put their own teams in that. And finally, corporate itself is looking at risk at a very different level. They want to know regulatory risk. They want to know what we can do in the equity capital markets. What can we do to get our market risk down, reputation.